The more familiar that you become with what actually is going on in that head of theirs, as well as continuously reminding yourself that narcissists do not think in the same way that you do, the less maddening and insane you will feel, and the less time that you will spend racking your brain in hopes to find some alternative explanation. And more importantly, puts yourself in the most optimal position of being able to better protect yourself from these twisted and dangerous people. Because the bottom line is this, that though this information truly is the game changer for dealing with a narcissist, however, it is actually a good thing that we will never be able to fully grasp in its entirety or completely fathom how anybody can find pleasure and get off seeing the suffering that they deliberately created wash over your face and the pain fill up in your eyes. Because the only way for one to 100% actually get it is for one to be as vile, evil, and morally fucked as they are. Remember that. And remember that as bloody frustrating as it can be, and as much hell as they can put you through, at the end of the day, the joke is on them, because the biggest fool in the world is the fool that fools themselves. Capiche? So on that note, let's get started. Which, as I mentioned in a previous video, one of the key points in understanding how narcissists actually think is that all roads of thought that cross over the threshold of their mind begin and end with this delusional ideation of being such an elite, powerful, and magnificently divine specimen. Their sense of almightiness run rings around all of the Greek gods put together, remain intact, and Fantasyland Island open for business. Because without this delusional, conjured up perception, they are nothing, defenseless, naked as a jaybird, because narcissists have no core identity, no true sense of self. From there, developing this delusion of grandeur before they can even remember why they even adapted this in the first place, it in turn stunts their emotional maturity and fundamental human development, skewing their sense of self versus sense of other. In their mind, they are the only ones with feelings, opinions, beliefs in existence, and in turn, the only ones of importance. And without being able to conceptualize the concept of others and having this distorted perception of self as well as reality, aka theory of the mind, it makes it literally impossible for them to acquire effective empathy, object constancy, whole object relations, intersubjective understanding, as all of these fundamental skills are dependent upon understanding and grasping the concept that others are individual entities with their own perceptions, thoughts, feelings, and opinions. Due to this deficit leads to their brain's wiring to a whole other dimension or pathway than someone who does develop these fundamental skills. But the key thing to remember about how their brain behaves differently is in that this deficit of theory of the mind changes their brain's default mode network, which more or less is the mode that our brain switches into when we are doing things that aren't task-oriented or when we're having internal dialogue, when we're daydreaming. It is also our self-critic what allows us to make self-improvements and gives us the ability to have self-awareness, to want to better ourselves and meet the expectations that we have and others have of us as well. So in all essence, it's our brain chatter. And for the average person, this default mode network is internally focused. But with narcissists, it's not. is externally focused, critiquing the world rather than themselves, not having any kind of self-critic, ego-syntonic. So what their brain chatter is telling them is that everyone else is the problem. So like, for example, something that we do keeps falling through. The average person sees it as, why do I keep messing up? How do I go about stopping it? The narcissist thinks, you're doing this wrong, you're doing that wrong, you are such a mess up. In combination with their lack in developing empathy, object constancy, makes it the deal breaker in trying to get them to own up to their faults, wrongdoings, or for them to even consider themselves needing changing, as they see it as it being everybody else's fault and not theirs, not even one little bit. And that goes across the board, from it being your fault that they cheated on you, your fault that they treated you like shit, your fault that the relationship has the problems that it's having. You're the issue. You are the one that is a disappointment and not enough. And what leads to this becoming so dangerous is that just as our internal self-critic motivates us to improve ourselves, their externally focused default mode motivates them to manipulate, deceive, cover up, project, deter, and push the blame outwards. And one of the underlying reasons as to why they become more cocky, dangerous, evil with each deceptive, manipulative trick that they pull off. Because in their eyes, they see it as they're being some kind of powerful by making you suffer, and without having empathy, object constancy, and they're being devoted to this delusional ideation. They not only have no guilt or remorse, but they also have no red light, no filter, no mercy for you. And why, when they deem you as the enemy, they will stop at nothing to take you out, as well as what leads to these qualities and traits about you that initially they found alluring will inevitably become envious of or perceive them as if you're trying to outdo, one up, or outshine them, regardless if you actually are or not. Because without any kind of true sense of self or ability to self-validate, they are always looking out for these threats of danger at someone trying to be better than them, which simply cannot happen because of their black and white mentality way of thinking. Because if they aren't the most superior being on the planet, there's no middle ground. So they would be the most inferior person in the world. And there ain't no way in hell that they're going to let that happen. Why, they're always in competition, always putting you down, belittling, demeaning, diminishing your accomplishments, your successes, and will never view you as an equal or their partner. And there is nothing that you can do to fix that, to help that, or to save that, because they do not want to be fixed. They do not want your help. They do not think that they are in any need of saving, because in their twisted mind, they are all that matters. And the only thing of importance is the delusional, made up ideations and bullshit narratives that they alter, adjust, twist, distort, and contort come off as being either the victim, victor, or hero. And the only reason that they ever have for coming off as if they have even but one reasonable brain cell between their two ears is if it benefits them in some way, form, or fashion, or because you still have something that they can gain from. Period. It has nothing to do with them really caring how you feel, honest desire, want, or consideration in changing. They have not had this remarkable come to Jesus transformation. They have not seen the light or have recognized themselves as being a problem, because they do not give two shits about anyone else's feelings, opinions. They have no desire to bond or connect. They do not regret the things that they do. And when we try to go about it in terms of humanizing their behaviors and looking at why they did or said something from the same mental toolbox that we would go about it to the average person, will only ever end up in our driving ourselves insane and wasting so much of our valuable time, life, and energy holding on to the hope that they'll return back to this illusion that they merely used to lure you in, to take advantage of, and to fuel their supply. But just like they can't turn on their glitch in being a human, we can't turn off ours. And that you have empathy, you have compassion, and they're brainwashing you and projecting all of their issues and bullshit, convincing us and gaslighting us into believing that nobody else in their right mind would want our unlovable, unworthy, disappointing, sorry, crazy ass. And this belief that there's some good in everyone, or that love and compassion can cure all. But to a narcissist, your empathy, your compassion, your pity, your love, your efforts, to them are nothing more but a way to use you and to use these very qualities about you against you like weapons in their pocket. And because of their black and white mentality way of thinking, they will not stop until they annihilate you completely. And though they give their best college try at making these attacks, projections, insults, and that they hurl at your head to feel like a personal attack as they can, as that is their deliberate intention, none of it truly is personal. None of it is about you. It is about the unholy war in their head from tossing any shot of their having any true identity into the dungeon, locking the door on it and tossing away the key, essentially signing their soul over to the devil so far back that the devil doesn't even remember who these fools truly are anymore. As every time they get away with their malevolence, they begin to grow sadistic as they get off seeing you suffer just as much as they do someone seeing them as some kind of superhero or messiah. And though it is so important to remember, anytime you find yourself trying to wrap your head around or make sense of anything that these individuals do, to not try to humanize their behavior. And the second you stray from this is going to once again create this rabbit hole that you go down in ruminating and trying to make sense of something that simply will not ever fully make sense to you or anyone else that isn't as morally bankrupt and ass backwards in their thinking to that of the average person. You won't. And that is a good thing. They are devoted, remaining in this perpetual state of denial from reality. It's not your fault, nor is it your problem or responsibility or job to fix it, because you can't. But you can save yourself, and it doesn't make you a monster in doing so, but rather gives you a chance at getting back the life that these creatures who think and behave anything but human had any right to take from you in the first place. You are worth and deserve so much more than they will ever be able to give you. So fight for you. Save you. Focus on you. Fuck the narcissist.